November 24th, 1971. A man dressed in a black suit, wearing dark sunglasses, walks into the Portland International Airport. He carries a black briefcase and a calm, confident demeanor. He approaches the counter and buys a one-way ticket to Seattle. His name, Dan Cooper, or at least that's the name he gave. What happened next would become one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in FBI history. He used cash to buy a one-way ticket on Flight 305 bound for Seattle, Washington. Cooper was a quiet man who appeared to be in his mid-40s and about 6 feet tall. The day before Thanksgiving, Dan Cooper boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305, a Boeing 727 scheduled for a short 30-minute flight from Portland to Seattle. He took seat 18C, ordered a bourbon and soda, and waited for the plane to take off. But just minutes after takeoff, Cooper slipped a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She initially ignored it, assuming it was just another businessman flirting with her. But then Cooper leaned in and whispered, "Miss, you'd better read that note. I have a bomb." Cooper closed the briefcase and told Schaffner his demands. She wrote a note with Cooper's demands, brought it to the cockpit, and informed the flight crew of the situation. Captain Scott directed her to remain in the cockpit for the remainder of the flight and take notes of events as they happened. He then relayed to Northwest Flight Operations in Minnesota the hijacker's demands. Cooper requests $200,000 in a knapsack by 5 p.m. He wants 2 front parachutes, 2 back parachutes. He wants the money in negotiable American currency. By requesting 2 sets of parachutes, Cooper implied he planned to take a hostage with him, thereby discouraging authorities from supplying non-functional equipment. The captain immediately informed air traffic control, and the FBI was brought in. There was no panic among the passengers, as Cooper was strangely polite and calm throughout the entire ordeal. He even paid for his drink and offered tips to the crew. By the time the plane landed in Seattle, the FBI had gathered the ransom money, $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, and provided 4 parachutes as requested. Cooper let all 36 passengers go, keeping only the flight crew on board. Now his next demand: fly to Mexico City at a low altitude at a speed no faster than 200 miles per hour. This was a strange request, but pilots followed his orders. At 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 took off again. Cooper also specified the landing gear must remain deployed, the wing flaps must be lowered 15 degrees, and the cabin must remain unpressurized. First Officer Radazak informed Cooper that the configuration limited the aircraft's range to about 1,000 miles, so a second refueling would be necessary before entering Mexico. After takeoff, Cooper told Mucklow to lower the aft staircase. Around 8 p.m., as the plane flew over the dense forests of Washington, something shocking happened. Cooper ordered the flight crew into the cockpit and locked the door. Moments later, warning lights in the cockpit signaled that the rear stairs had been lowered. Then, without a word, D.B. Cooper jumped out of the plane into the freezing night. In 1980, a young boy discovered $5,800 in cash along the Columbia River money that matched the ransom serial numbers. But still, no sign of Cooper. One person from our list, Richard Floyd McCoy, is still a favorite suspect among many. We tracked down and arrested McCoy for a similar airplane hijacking and escape by parachute less than 5 months after Cooper's flight. But McCoy was later ruled out because he didn't match the nearly identical physical descriptions of Cooper, provided by 2 flight attendants, and for other reasons. In November, Dan Grider, a retired pilot who has spent 20 years investigating the case, told the Cowboy State Daily that the FBI was reinvestigating the Cooper case after the discovery of the parachute in the McCoy's mother's shed. The suggestion that Richard McCoy may have hijacked the Northwest Orient Airlines is not as outrageous as it may seem. McCoy, a former military helicopter pilot who served in the Vietnam War, was among a number of suspects investigated by the FBI after he hijacked a plane on April 7, 1972, leaping out of the aircraft with $500,000 cash over Provo, Utah. McCoy was arrested 2 days later and sentenced to 45 years in prison, but he escaped in 1974. After 3 months on the run, he was killed by an FBI agent. Perhaps McCoy died hiding the secret of the D.B. Cooper hijacking with him, and 50 years on, the truth may finally have come to light. What do you think happened to him? Who was D.B. Cooper? A criminal mastermind? A military-trained skydiver? Or just a man who got lucky?